Welcome to Guess the Year. I'm the host. My name's Mike. This week we're playing a team format. Here's how the game works. I play a song for a team of 3 comprised of returning Guess the Year contestants. After the song concludes, the team will discuss and ultimately submit a single guess of the live track's year. However many years off they are is their team's score for that round. If they nail the year exactly, they get 0 points. If they're 1 year off, they get 1 point, and so on. After 5 songs, however many years off they are in total is their team's score for the game. In last week's episode, Smego, Murph, and Geov got 5 points. That's the score to beat for this week's team. Whichever team has the lower score wins a prize pack of Guess the Year shirts. Unlike the main tournament, where the winner stays on, these are one-off matches. We'll meet the Deadheads in a moment, but first, without further ado, the Grateful Dead.
We all think of tragedy and love.
So the other team was Smego, Murph, and Geov, and their total aggregate score was 5. A very good score. The pressure's on from the start. We'll see what Todd thought. Todd appeared in episodes 16 through 19. Todd is 52 from Wilmington, North Carolina. Todd, do you have a feeling for that one?
I think I do. I think 89 or 90. The recording quality was not pristine on this end. Phil was really thumpy. Bobby was really chimey. And then Garcia's licks in the solo, later when they play it, he plays this sort of descending run, da 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 da, and that's later in the evolution of Touch of Grace, so it's not an early touch. And then I heard that Mickey was on. Mickey's fills were in time. So I think 89 or 90. I'd lean 90.
Joshua is 19 from the Bay Area. He was in episode 18. He had that thriller against Todd, and now they're teammates. Good TV here. Joshua, what do you think about Todd's kind of range there?
I'm perfectly aligned with Todd's range. I'm a little intimidated by the score of the previous team because, 5 songs and 5 points, that means that they're, if we were to put it at an average, they were only like a year off per song. So there's like a part of me that wants to go like maybe it's 88, but I was really leaning with Todd that like 88, 89, 90 seems to be the best for this. It could even be 90 because it seems to me that after like spring tour and summer tour, just like especially with the Ultra Matrix soundboards that we have, like Bob's guitars, as Todd said, like the chiminess of it, like sort of like the thin sound that we know today, like you can hear it very much pronounced, and like you got that more, I think, in 89 and 90 than you did in 87 or 88. Like, Huey turned him up a little more because I know that was always a constant issue that he had. So 89 or 90, I'm with Todd. I'm wondering what Jonathan says.
Jonathan appeared in episode 24. He is 24 from Tallahassee. Jonathan, what are you thinking?
Not gonna lie, I feel like this is a pre-coma Jerry. Something about the Brent's organs. They didn't really feel as bright as like 89, 90. Not gonna lie, I listened to a lot of 89, 90, and those were not late Brent organs in my opinion. they're kind of transitional organs from like kind of like the early mid 80s into post coma Jerry. I feel like there's kind of some more warm kind of synth sounds instead of more the bright organ you might find in a later coma or later post coma Brent years. Plus, Jerry, I don't know. I don't know. He just I was just imagining him kind of disheveled like he was before his organ. I honestly like I'm throwing my dart on 85 for this show. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like that's kind of
I
how I
could
feel
see
just
it.
between Jerry and the organ. It just did not sound like 8990 whatsoever to me.
I could see that with Jerry's voice. Jerry's voice didn't sound as enthusiastic, I would say, as he did in 89, 90. So I don't
Like
know.
kind of
It
tired,
yeah,
right?
a
He
little
Yeah.
sounded
bit.
kind of
Yeah.
tired, yeah.
So, which in addition to all the banter makes me wonder 88, sort of push it back a little bit. There was a real chimey time in 88 with Bob's guitar tone that had a lot of distortion, almost explodes out of there. But that would still be post coma. I did not think it was 85. I didn't think it had that bouncy sort of liltiness. And I don't know the organs nearly as well as you, Jonathan.
I mean, I don't know the organs too well. I mean, how about this from July 4th, 1989? They played Touch of Grey. I did not hear this organ from that 89 show whatsoever. So I think this has got to be earlier.
In what sense? Like you didn't hear the organ as in like Brent didn't play the organ? Or like the sound
No,
of the
absolutely.
organ?
Brent played the organ. It's just
Oh,
a
you mean
different
like the
device was
sound.
played. You know, like he switched up
Yeah.
his gear. At least to me, that's what I'm hearing.
I feel pretty comfortable post coma, I must say. Especially that the guitar part in the solo where he sort of plays the theme again.
I feel like 88 is like a fair compromise, but like I would still lean with somewhere like 89, 90 because I also wouldn't take like I feel like part of like the sound we just have to adjust to the fact that part of it is also like through Zoom. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sure that Mike is playing the best recording that he has available to him, right? It's just that like part of it is also like the internet transmission, so that might like lower or dampen like some of the sounds that we might be more familiar with. So we really have to look at like the more concrete things like we can nail like again like
Interesting.
the like Bobby's guitar. Like I don't think that you would be getting that sound just like an 84 and 85. I mean, not unless you're listening to an audience recording or something like that. It's much more muddled in a soundboard. I mean, you wouldn't get it.
I still think it's in that 89 to 90 region. I think I could definitely go 88. I just don't feel like it's pre coma. Um, and I'd hate to be wrong, but the sort of the song structure and uh, Bob Weir's guitar tone and Mickey as well. You know, Touch started in '82, right? Touch was this jangly, almost backbeat sort of vibe, and they sped it up for a while. And you know, in '84, it's got a real clip to it. And then they sort of figure it out in '87. They record it, '86, '87, and it evolves after that as well. But it's I don't know. To me, it had that what Touch became sort of beat overall to it.
Joshua, how do you feel about that?
I'm feeling safe with. I'm feeling pretty confident with Todd's analysis. Like 88 would be a good safe bet and like a good compromise because it would give us a good range. You know, if we're playing, if we think about playing the game as like the primary objective, then like 88 would be like a nice solid safe bet. But I can see this with 89 and 90. And again, Touch of Grey changed places. Like I know there was a show from summer of 90 where it occupied the last song of the second set slot. So it's one of those things where like if Jerry sounds tired, it might not just be like the era. It could also just be where the touch is placed in the show.
And where the show is placed in the tour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and another thing with touch is I feel Brent played a lot more of his synth piano in the early 80s. Like I'm thinking of the recent In and Out of the Garden box that they released, and that had a couple of touches on there that they performed in Madison Square Garden. And to my recollection, he played his piano on there. And I feel like the real organ again, like we really get that post coma. I might be wrong on this, but that's just my feeling.
Jonathan, how do you feel about that?
I'm not gonna be a stick in the mud. I mean, I'll go with 88.
Okay, so Todd, 88.
Yeah, I think as far as playing the game goes, sure.
No objections. It was Touch of Grey at Henry J. Kaiser Convention Center in Oakland, California on March 16th, 1988.
Oh,
Congratulations,
bravo, guys!
Nice
Bravo.
job, everybody. That was
Yeah.
team effort all the way.
It
all
was.
the way.
Jonathan compelled me to go with 88 because that felt like a safe bet, and you made some good points. So it's like, look at that.
Well played. Well played.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Nice job, guys.
What was the month?
It was March 16th of 88.
Yeah, so they go to Hampton, Virginia after that, if I'm not mistaken, and play in the spring. I get Hampton mixed up. I saw them at Hampton so many times. There were fall Hampton shows as well.
Todd, yeah, welcome back to the show. And also, I mean to ask, you were at those 89 Hampton shows where the band billed themselves as the Warlocks. When you were buying tickets and preparing to go, did you know why they were calling themselves the Warlocks? And also just what was it like being at those legendary shows?
I mean, we had no idea really. It was bizarre, and of course, everybody's seen the sign out in front that says, the Warlocks, out in front of the Hampton Coliseum. So it was epic and amazing. And my formerly known as the Warlocks, that's what my tickets say. And we'd been in Hampton many, many times before that. It was fall break of college, so it was 100% cool. We had a hotel room right there, and I knew 30, 40 people that were there. The parking lot scene was always really great and amazing, and always managed to be relatively chill in Hampton. And then they just tore us to shreds for 2 nights in a row. They just tore, and I'm a huge fan of night number 1, Help Slip Franklin's Victim, I Skip and Go to Eyes. The Eyes is tremendous. I'm mad about that Victim. We were all grooving, and all of a sudden it was dark heroin land. We had just done Slipknot, and the one thing that always blew me away about seeing the Dead, I had never seen Slipknot before. They hadn't played Help on the Way, Slipknot, Franklin's Tower since September '85 at the Kaiser. And you think to yourself, this is awesome. I'd love to hear that song. I'd love to hear this song. I'd love to hear that song. And then you get in the show, at least I did, and you realize Slipknot is dark. Slipknot is dark and scary. And I love dark and scary. And, it's just an incredible Slipknot. And then the other thing you don't realize is as much as you love that hook, when they actually finally play that hook again and the dark and scary is over and you're back and it's all back and the music's playing in the band, just epic. So I'm crazy for Eyes of the World. That Eyes of the World has some incredible Garcia work in both solo sections and at the end, and a neat little jam at the end. And so we're all thrilled. We're loving life. We've had an incredible night. I'm sure was the encore that night was something amazing, I'm sure. And we go into the show the next night. If you know that Feel Like a Stranger from that Warlocks box set, that's the crushing Stranger. They nail that end jam like nobody's business. And then Birdsong was extraordinary. And we go to set break, and we're just like, somebody said, if there's a God, they'll play Dark Star. They had broken out so much, and somebody in my crew said, if there's a God, they'll play Dark Star. And they rip into, what is it? It's Uncle John's playing some amalgam of that. And then everybody's heard those first few notes of Dark Star, and that had been since 1984 summer Berkeley shows. And if I'm not mistaken, they go into the verse relatively quickly on that one, and people cheer quite a bit. And then guess what? Dark Star gets really dark, right? And they go really dark really quick. It was, when sort of Evil Dead comes to town, which I adore. I like Evil Dead. I like Evil Fish. I like it when things are hard-edged and a little dissonant, and there's a little bit of a scary tone to it. And that Dark Star with Jerry's like just peeling notes that roll off the fretboard. And then they did We Bid You Good Night, which I think they had done before. They did Addicts of My Life. They did Addicts, was a breakout from, I don't even know, 1972 or something like that. So Hampton is just so special. And those shows, you hear me just go through song by song. They really just brought it home in every way. And Garcia's playing Wolf, right? Sort of Wolf version 3. He's back on the Wolf guitar. It's got the whole MIDI rig. We had never seen that before. So it was just phenomenal. And then we packed up our stuff and went home and took midterm exams.
Brilliant. It's great to have you back, Todd. Thank you.
It's great to be back. Thanks, man.
So you guys have 0 going into round 2. Yeah, let's play the second song.
Hear Uncle John's band, to the time. We'll go alone, he's come to take his children home. It's the same story the crow told us. They hope you money know. Like the morning sun you come, and like the wind you go. Ain't no time to hate, barely time to wait. Oh, what I want to know, where does the time go?
You could put me to sleep to that. That was fucking beautiful.
So yeah, Uncle John's band. Joshua, do you have a feeling?
It's early 70s, that's for sure. It seems to be only Billy. It's no Mickey, so we can eliminate 71 and earlier, and 75 and later. And just my feeling is that it's anywhere between post Europe 72 to 74. I'm really leaning on 74, but I'm curious to hear what other people think about the vocals, number one, like how they sound compared to 73, and also Bob's guitar is very prominent. And the thing with a lot of Wallace sound recordings is that he sometimes can fall off. Like he's almost non-existent in the mix. Maybe that's not always true, but if I really had to guess, it'd either be 73 or 74. Jerry played great on that one. That was a great little piece.
Jonathan, where do you come in on this?
I'm pretty much right on money with Josh. It's got to be Wall of Sound. I just kind of recognize it. The instrumentation is very clear. It doesn't really have the muddy sound of any of the other years. So it's got to be 73, 74. Donna wasn't singing. I forget, was she even singing in Uncle John's band ever?
I think she did, but she also took a pause in like late 73, I believe.
Yeah, she was pregnant.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I'm leaning towards 74.
All right, Todd, this is why I get paid the big bucks. What are you thinking?
So I totally agree with these guys, of course. I wrote, 73, 74 down. I think we should talk about 72 for just a second. But as far as Joshua, the vocals go, and Jonathan, yeah, Donna not singing. I heard Phil. And so the question I have is, when did Phil stop singing? Did he sing? He stopped sometime 73, 74 and picked it back up in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he stopped singing Fox in like 73, but the question is like, did he still do backing vocals, which I'm curious about, like trucking stuff like that.
At some point he dropped off, but I'm not 100% sure when it is. It's certainly in that corridor. For Bob's guitar, I heard it high in the mix and a little bit distorted, a little bit crispy on the edge. And again, you don't hear his guitar a whole lot in a lot of Wallig Sound recordings. It sounds relatively muted and low in the mix. that pushes me back towards 72 just a little bit. With a, Europe 72, Bob's guitar sound is so quick and crispy and sharp, and it wasn't that on this recording. So that puts me, I think I'm at 73. I think with Phil still singing and Bob's guitar a little crispy, a little distorted, but it could absolutely be 74, you guys. This is a tough little corridor right here.
Okay. Yeah, 73, I guess.
That would make a lot of sense with Jerry's guitar sound, because he took delivery of the Wolf in September of 73. The previous 73, all that wall of sound stuff was on Alligator and a few other things. And I thought it sounded nice and bouncy and wolfy. Let's go 73, you guys. What do you think?
I think it's a safe bet.
Jonathan?
Yeah, 73.
All right. It was Uncle John's band at Oklahoma City Music Hall on November 14th, 1972.
Oh, 72?
What was the date?
November 14th. So late
Okay.
72.
Late
Wow.
72.
I'm a sadist.
Yeah, late 72.
Todd, you had an inkling of 72. Now that you
I
know
did.
it's 72, what'd you hear?
It was Bob's guitar tone. I mean, again, listen to Europe 72, which is arguably the finest. Well, right, it's a live audio recording. It's the first time that anyone ever did a multi-track live recording and then take it into the studio and drop things out, master it, and add overdubs to it. So there's vocal overdubs, there's organ overdubs. I don't know if there's guitar overdubs. There's certainly vocal overdubs, but it's Europe 72 is just brilliant, right? The playing is incredible. The auditory experience is incredible. So listen for Bob Weir's guitar. It's snappy. It's not distorted like a heavy metal distortion. It's a clean guitar tone, but when he sort of whacks it really hard, it's just got a really strong snap or a grind. It's a little distorted on there. It's an amazing sound, and he only really did it in that Europe 72 corridor. So it didn't sound quite like that, but it sounded not as mellow and undistorted as he gets into 73 and 74.
Got it. Joshua, welcome back to Guest of the Year. We've been chatting a bit in these last couple months, I guess, and I know you've been getting into curious about taping, and also you just went and you got fish pilled the other night. I'd love to hear about that.
Oh yeah. Which one should I start off with?
Tell us about the fish pilling.
So that was incredible. So I'm Bay Area resident. They came to the Greek, which is like absolutely insane. You know, the last time they played there was like 13 years ago, which is, again, long time. And I know that there was major safety concerns the last time that they played at the Greek because it's such a small venue where it's located. I mean, you know, there's no lot scene, right? It's a walking lot. You know, everyone knows what a fish lot looks like. You know, so you got balloons everywhere. You got, you know, people selling their wares everywhere, and it just becomes a little bit of a mess, which it was this time around too. Insane mess. But I was very fortunate because I've over the last couple, especially this last month, I've met a lot of people in the Bay Area that are local that go to shows, and so I was able to go with a few of them. You know, we got like a decent spot. And Monday night was the first time, and that's the night with the 44-minute tweezer, right? That everyone's talking about. Which my little funny story with that is that I had really needed to pee those whole 44 minutes, and I'd been waiting for them to change the song. You know, I'm waiting for it to be like the Grateful Dead experience. But little did I know that it would be a Dark Star level tweezer, pretty much. It was great. I mean, I'd never really listened to Fish before, and I'd specifically avoided it, partially because of like the scene and like the associate. You know, like everyone knows that the Grateful Dead is probably the most mellow out of any like jam band in the scene. You know, like Grateful Dead like related things. At least that's like what I feel and what I see. But it was definitely great. I mean, Trey is fantastic. You know, I feel like I'm like the last person to discover this, you know, in the whole world. But, you know, it's great. At least I made it, right? At least I made it. And then I skipped Tuesday. I wasn't able to go, you know, because, you know, I still have life and school and, you know, all these other wonderful things. But I made it for Wednesday, which was Bicycle Day. And so that was a very interesting experience, big beyond the music, just watching everybody else. And it really seemed like Wednesday was also like the most, I don't want to use the word chaotic, but like the most like crowded. I mean, last day that Fish was going to be playing at the Greek, everyone wanted to get in, and I'd gotten a really wonderful spot in like the lower pit. I came early enough that I was able to do that. Tarps are crazy. I don't know why people insist on that. We all pay one price for the ticket at a all GA venue like they had it set up, but whatever. I mean, fantastic show. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, when they break into a song like Lawn Boy and like, Paige just like leaves his piano and he starts walking on stage. I mean, like I had no idea what was going I mean, like literally no idea what was going on. But it was great. I mean, it was also the first time when I really felt like lights were a really huge part of the show. Chris, the gentleman who runs the lights, CK5, however people call him. I mean, he is just incredible. And Wednesday night, even though everyone talks about Monday, but from people that had went, a lot of people said that Tuesday was better than Monday, even though Monday again had that big tweezer, and a lot of people really loved Wednesday. It was a great light show, like more than anything. And with taping, I had a gentleman who sent me his rig. He lives in New York, as far as I understand, or like the New Jersey area, and I'm just starting to get acquainted with it because it's just like one of those like basic like Rode shotgun mics, and I'm a little intimidated because everyone else has like thousands of dollars worth of equipment and stands, and it's like, being like 19 and bringing in like a 6-foot stand into like a venue feels a little awkward. But I'm planning on it. Wavy Gravy's birthday. They're doing a little SIVA benefit here at the Herbs Theater. I'm going for that. I have an idea to just like stick it on my hat and have like a little recorder in the back pocket and do something like that. We'll see how it goes. It's just I've met some tapers as well, like at Skull and Roses, because they had like a very like open section. I don't know if you saw Mike, but like it was like the soundboard and then pretty much just like a 6-foot space in front of them where they let them like set up. And it's a great gift that there are people that still engage in this. Not everyone has the ability to afford a Nug subscription or pay for a soundboard recording of their show. But when you have people that put in the effort and bust their ass to like get you a recording for the show, like many thanks to Charlie Miller, like people like that. I mean, it becomes a great gift for all of us. And it's like there's obviously less and less tapers. I mean, like when you look at pictures from like the 80s, you're seeing literally like a field of tapers, and we're talking about like thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and like equipment, hours and hours of time before and after the show. I mean, it's a whole ordeal, and so to be able to try and participate in that would be a great way of giving back, for all the great things that every other taper has done to lead me to this point. Because without them, this wouldn't be possible. There's no reason why all of these shows should be available in amazing soundboard quality. There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason. I mean, most bands don't have it that way, I believe, or at the very least, they've just been sitting in the back of their archives until they feel it's time for a box set release 50 years after the band has retired. That's what happens with most bands, I feel like. Grateful Dead has been very courteous to us that they've been releasing all of this stuff at a fairly affordable price point.
Really well said, Josh.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, beautifully said, Joshua. Todd, did you do taping in your day? Am I remembering that correctly?
I did. My college roommate, his older brother Dave, was a taper, and as fate would have it, I got a phone call tonight at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time from Dave's younger brother Steve, my college roommate, for the first time in about 10 years or more. And so I just chatted to the guy who introduced me to taping and whose rig I used to tape with. They used to tape the Dead from 83, 84, 85, 86, Hampton, Richmond, North Carolina shows. And then we used to take it to Fish. We started seeing Fish in 1990. My wife started seeing them earlier than that, but at least 1990 at Trax in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we brought our Grateful Dead taping rig into there. So there's at least one like 90, 91 Fish show out there that's my recording. But
awesome.
That's the extent of it. That's the extent of it.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited to listen to your tapes, Joshua. I'm sure they'll be excellent, and it's cool you're doing that. Yeah. Okay, you guys are at 1 point after 2 songs. So You're on pace. Still not a lot of room for error. Let's play the next song.
Time to tell how this is the season of what inside at Westbury, hallelujah, hallelujah. Time of returning, fortune's polish and gleaming. Nine walkers on a jingle bell rainbow. Time that's believing the shell has relinquished the rain. Five men riding with fingers of gold. Now is the test of waiting for the Lord with the night. What's it gonna take, Lord?
Gosh, Good. gosh.
Jonathan, do you have a thought?
Yeah. Obviously the 11. One thing I love about this band, I'm just like closing my eyes. I mean, that is just like very just 60s psychedelia, just like drenched with acid. Like, what I really like about that is I feel like there's just singing right into my ears. You know, it just felt like really intimate. I don't know if you guys got that, but like I felt like I was like right there in the front row.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe just like compared to like the last two songs we listened to, I mean, this is like something totally different. It's totally different sound. I mean, this is basically a totally different band. As far as this recording, I think I hear Pigpen on organ. He had a very different style from Tom, obviously. I don't know. He kind of stuck out a little bit in the jams. I mean, he obviously never really partook in any psychedelics. I feel like he never really had that. Either the band was playing around him, or he's kind of struggling to fit in with the band's jam. But I really feel like even though Pig never really played organ on this song, I kind of feel like this is either Tom is just starting the band and is trying to fit in, or it's Pig just trying to play a very early 11. It's either the one of the two. And I know Tom was playing in 68. I don't think he was playing in 67. So it's either 67 or 68, one of those 2 years.
Joshua, you seem like you have an idea. What do you
I
think?
feel like Jonathan is right on the money. I believe the 11 wasn't played in 67, and I feel really confident with Jonathan's analysis. Like, I think he totally nailed it. Like, this is either Pig totally mashing himself in there, or Tom loud in the mix early. You know, like sort of the same thing that happened with Brent. They keep him high in the mix, and just to see how he sounds. And again, the other thing is the messiness of how they're playing. I feel like the 69 ones where it's like, Steven the 11, like where they have that nailed. Like, I feel it's a lot tighter, a lot more focused. So I feel like 68 would just be a solid guess. Yeah.
Before we proceed, I should mention that Joshua, you're seeing how Brent sounds higher in the mix poll has been mentioned in like 9 episodes now. So
I feel like I don't feel like that's like me though. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's more. No. I feel like that's a.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I even picked up on it in my own game show. Like one year was like 81, the next year was like 84, and like Brent was like lower in the mix. That's how I knew it was later in the 80s. So no, you're definitely onto something, Jonathan or Joshua.
Todd, where do you come in on this?
I wrote, 67, 68, 69, and I underlined 68. Who is on the organ? Oh my God. I mean, it's like, so first of all, they're like playing in an odd time signature. So you got to be on your stuff to be able to play this song. and they're really high in the mix, and they're like leading it. I mean, at some point I couldn't even hear Jerry. All I could hear was the organ. So who has learned the 11 and is wailing the 11 in this recording? I'm dying to know. The vocals were really high pitch, and I feel like that is more 68 or earlier. I think 68 is a safe bet right in the middle.
I agree. I mean, I feel like this is a song that Tom had to learn, and it doesn't feel like a song that Pig would have really bothered to learn because it's just not really his style.
Like you said, he lays out on the jams, and while this is not improvisational, well, it is, but I mean, it's such a hard structure to play over.
It is.
11.
It's not 4/4, and it's not a bluesy tune.
Yeah, no, it's an 11 pattern.
Yeah, very hard time signature. That's why they put it to rest after like 1969 or 70.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think 68 is our general consensus here.
So nobody thinks 69. Do we think 67 at all?
No, I think it was busted out in 68. That's my feeling. And also, again, I feel comfortable with what Jonathan said with that Tom and Pigpen overlap. Like, it seems like that would be the perfect time for somebody to be really high in the mix. Either Pigpen is really overconfident in his playing, or Tom is just trying to settle in, and they're like, we're trying to get himself inserted into it. So
it's frankly too rough for 69. 69, it was pretty polished by then.
Yeah, so like I'm thinking of like the ARC shows, from April of 69, and like stuff from there is so tuned in that like I find it hard to place it in 69. It really seems to have more of that like primal energy of 67 or 68, and 68 seems to be a safe bet.
Okay, 68. Does anyone object to that? Okay. The 11 at Carousel Ballroom in San Francisco on February 14th, 1968. Nice
there
work.
We go, gentlemen.
High five.
Woohoo!
Nice work.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
So was it Tom up there?
Good question. Tom was not there. It was just Big Ben. Tom started in November 68, and this was February 68. Jonathan, I want to ask, you were talking with Todd about how that was a difficult time signature to play, so much so that the band stopped playing the 11. Why is that such a difficult time signature to play?
Well, 4/4 is common time. Almost most songs you think of is in 4/4. 3/4 is more of a swing, kind of like a waltz. You would think 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is, and 11 it's just beyond a waltz. I mean, I think with the other one, it's a 4/4 over a 12/8. Not easy to play, frankly. It's kind of alien in the musical world.
The lore is that they hung out at the house in Haight and practiced it, over and over and over again. And so I think for the 11, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it like doesn't complete. You're sort of 2 beats missing at the end almost. It's just one of those things. They stopped playing it, right? They stopped playing a bunch of things that they had amazing ideas for early on, and that one's just it's hard to find the one, or it can be hard to find the one if you're the soloist. But Jerry was masterful at figuring out ways to always find the one, and I love those early 11 recordings. But that organ was foreign to me.
You guys are at 1 point after 3 songs. So 3 more points to play with to win, 4 more to tie. Let's play the next song.
Downtown, but
So yeah, who has a thought?
Well, there's one drummer,
Was there?
Was there?
I think.
I
Was
feel
there?
like I heard Mickey. That's honestly the only thing I'm confident about. I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah.
I had a tough time trying to
Am
hear
I
the
wrong about
keyboard
that?
player.
I feel like it was 78. I was bouncing between 74 and 78 because I don't know, it was hard to hear almost anything. And I did think I heard two drummers. And I thought eventually Garcia's got higher enough in the mix to hear him on that first solo. And it sounded more 78 to me.
The thing that concerns me, and I think like when I did my episode with Todd and Mike, we talked about 78. That was one of the picks, and Keith seems to be almost missing. I mean, I don't either the mix is burying him, or he's just playing the chords so uniform to whatever Jerry and Bobby are playing in terms of rhythm that there's like I can't hear anything. Like Phil's pronounced, I could hear Phil, but I don't know. I feel like if it was like anything in the 80s, I would be hearing Brent, and it certainly seems to be in the 70s. It could be 74, but I feel like there's a certain. I have a feeling I hear two drummers. There's so much noise with the drumming in the background that I just have a feeling that you got the rhythm devil just monkeying around in the back. So that it leans me to 78. I wouldn't want to say 79 because that's too big of a gap in terms of again playing the game.
I mean, I listened to a 78 Johnny Be Good, for example, from like May 11th or something. Sounds a little bit different. I mean, for one thing, Billy, I assume, he was not that high in the mix. Keith, he really was not in the mix either because of 78. I don't know. I mean, just that one drummer was very heavy in the mix. I mean, am I the only one who's really getting that? I mean, do you guys really think like Mickey was just so buried in the mix? Like, because I feel like they would give Mickey a little bit more sound.
I heard
I
a
mean, I
lot
don't
of
know. What do
like
you guys think?
Joshua said like there's a drum density sort of back there, and I think it was not articulate. You couldn't really hear what was doing what, but there's like a lot of drum stuff going on.
Yeah, and with it being Promised Land, we have to remember that that song is usually a first set opener, which means we're often dealing with big soundboard mix problems.
Yeah.
And
Levels.
that's what I heard. I mean, I barely heard Jerry, and I definitely didn't hear anybody on keys. And for me, keys is like my personal like go-to in terms of like what era I can assess they're playing. Again, I don't feel like we get this fullness in 76 I mean, there's more fullness, I should say, in 76 and 77. There is something to be said with maybe like 74 or 73, but I feel like for me, 78 is a better bet simply because of like just again how I described it, like the density of those drums. Even if it's I just have a feeling that it was Mickey and Billy, and Bobby was great in the mix too, which is another good pointer for late 70s.
I will say like in the set placement, post hiatus 76 through 79, I guess. Promised Land was actually a first set closer usually. I'm thinking back to like a Hartford, Connecticut, 77 May. That was a really good closer. Hell, they even played it as a closer, I think, in Hampton in '89. Um,
Oh yeah.
but yeah. So it was definitely a pre-hiatus opener. Obviously, most famous Veneta 72. Um,
I think it was still an upper post 70, but totally, I absolutely agree, man. Because I know with Brent,
yeah,
it
it
was
definitely
only a closer.
shifts.
So
Right.
Jonathan, on the one drum angle, what do you think it is? 74, 75, 70? I guess just have to be
I don't know.
74,
I
right?
mean, honestly, the mix was kind of muddy. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And that's not really a hallmark of the Wall of Sound. So I guess that would mean it's probably post hiatus.
I mean, I think it's 78, but I'm questioning whether we should consider 76 at all. It didn't necessarily have that. Well, again, we couldn't hear a whole lot, and the mix was really rough. So 76 sometimes has almost a whistle to it, if you will, like a real audio thing that's on a lot of those tapes.
And I think to build on that, like Mickey, since he was kind of new to the band, if you could even say that, in
Yeah, right.
'76, they were kind of trying to figure out how to mix him back in. I mean, there were times when like I was even listening to the show and I'm like, let me listen to that again because it turned out to be 76. And like, okay, like he's like Mickey's like playing the tambourine, like something kind of obscure, you know. So yeah, I feel like Mickey's just trying to edge himself in, and it could be one of those 76 shows where they just don't know what to do with the man.
I do feel like 78, but Joshua, what do you think?
Yeah. My one thing is if I could hear Keith, I would have a much easier time. If Keith was loud and prominent in the mix, I would much more safely say 76 for the same reasons that Jonathan said it. Like if it was Mickey, he would have been like, new and all of that, like still getting used to the groove. But I feel like 78 is just my safe bet again with the lack of Keith, or lack of distinct Keith really bums me out, and that just leads me to 78. And then also, I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, it can't be 77. That's all I know.
Oh, how about
That's
this?
all I know.
How about this? Was it a disco beat? Was it disco?
No.
No.
I mean,
I feel like 78
Promised
is
Land
mine.
is
Promised
always
Land ain't
kinda-
really disco.
Yeah, it's
No,
kind of
I mean,
cowboy.
not as me and my uncle, but I mean, they definitely discoed it up in 78.
I would stick with 78, but if I wonder what the consensus is among.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think you're right on the money with Keith being absent. I think 78 is a pretty safe bet in all truth and fullness.
Let's go 78 and hope it's not like 76 or some obscure 74 thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. It was that Promised Land at Tower Theater in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania on June 24th, 1976.
God.
Oh!
Jonathan, nice work. You're on the money there. Joshua, you said it's either 76 or 78. It's definitely not 77. Why could it never have been 77?
The Holy Grail. I mean, it's the money. I'm not the biggest fan of 77 like some other people are. I'll be honest. I don't think Cornell's the greatest show, even from,
from the 2-night stand they did there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just 77 is they're a little too tuned in. They're a little too dialed in. I mean, like nearly every show is just, and there's also a different sound to it. There just is a different sound to it. 78, you're getting coked out, and 76 is this more jazzy groove. And that's the hard thing with a song like Promised Land is that it's such a basic rockabilly song that they've done in every single iteration nearly of what is the Grateful Dead, that like it's hard to pin down like what era it is unless you get a full range of the instrumentation. And again, with it being a first set opener, I believe, in this era and possibly even with this show, like it makes it harder to pin down like exactly who's playing and what era. But we did, say either 76 or 78, and we weren't that far off,
For sure. Todd, like post-mortem, what did you hear there?
I mean, again, I agree that it would have been great to have that full band experience, but the density of the drums, and then Garcia eventually came in, and so I guess for 76, his sound should have been really wiry and thin. That's a whole nother guitar rig, different preamplifier and a different guitar, and it ends up with a really wiry sound. I find 76s often it sounds like the whole band like has a chorus effect on them, almost a low swishy sound to them. It's just a tough one, right? That pocket between 76 and 78. It's totally skipping 77 over, right? Slicing it out of the pie. There's some interesting equivalencies right in there, but got us.
You guys are at 3 points, and so you have 1 point to work with to win, 2 to tie, going into the last song.
Well, the joint was jumping, going round and round, and I leading and knocking for a crazy sound. I know they never start rocking till the moon went down. Lord, the sound is so sweet, I had to take a chance. I rose out of my seat, 'cause I had to dance. I started moving my feet. Oh, yes, I'm clapping my hands. But no rhythm, I start rocking. Going round and round. Hey, I read it and rocking. What a crazy sound. And no, we'll never stop rocking till the moon went down.
Around and around. Who has a thought?
That one was tough again. Very tough.
Certainly
Agree.
80s.
Yeah.
I mean,
Certainly
it's
80s.
not on the periphery of the 80s though. It's somewhere. It could be before coma, after coma.
I got 84, 85, 86 written down. I went 86 first. We couldn't hear Jerry sing. That doesn't help.
I will say a Brent's keyboard. So he kind of goes back and forth between. I recognize some like really soft sounds that he would use like 84, 83, even 85. But what I know is like towards the end of the recording, he definitely had that more bright organ that he used up until his untimely death. So I feel like this may be 86, after the coma. I don't know. What about you, Josh? What do you say?
I'm really feeling it with you guys. At first, when I was, not really as deep of a listen, I would have automatically guessed something like, 89, 90, but really giving it a listen, it really does seem to be either right post coma or before. Again, I feel like you guys are on the money with somewhere between 84 and 86. My gut would say somewhere with 85 and 86. One of those 2 years. It's hard. It's hard. This is a hard one. This is a really hard one.
Yeah, it's like, what's the difference? What is a discernible difference between 85 and 86? Because I don't know any.
This is what's hard for me. This is I can't tell you much.
And I want to interject that it could easily be 84 as well, unless there's some other limiting factor.
My one thing that makes me lean towards 86 is that there seems to be some bleed over of audience noise, which might seem to suggest that this is the beginning of the Ultra Matrix recording era, which is like, I think, 86, and then, 87, 88, 80, rest of the band's career, as far as I know. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, and I don't know. 85 seems like a safe bet in terms of if we want to get it between 84 and 86.
This is true.
Again,
this is true.
This is all in the spirit of playing the game, not even that
It's
I'm
true.
sure that it's that year.
Todd, let's hear you say. You're the only one who said 84. Well, what makes you feel like it might be 84?
There's just a little bit of a Bob Weir guitar tone thing. It's a little bit open, airy, but still plucky. But he sort of has versions of that through this whole era. Even as he switches guitars, he remains this very sort of open, airy, plucky, reverby sort of sound. But there was just something about it that reminded me of 84 tapes. Again, I wish we had been able to hear Garcia play more, but also sing. The first thing I wrote down was 86 for sure. And then I just sort of worked it backward where I think it could be any of those. I think 85 is a safe bet. I'm not sure it's 85.
I think it's 86. I mean, just listening to that Garcia solo, it's very seamless. It sounds like a very sober Garcia. He's not strung out.
It sounded like he started playing like a major scale instead of a blues scale for a minute there, and then like sort of caught himself like, oh yeah, we're sort of doing a bluesy pattern. And that could be any time in that window, 84, 85, 86, just like a straight up flub where you go launch into something that has a distinctive sound and you play the wrong set of notes, if you will, if there are such thing as wrong notes. What do you guys think? Is 85 the safe
It's all
bet?
about how you resolve them.
Right?
I'm leaning more towards 86
I would
personally.
I would be happy with 86 because that's what my gut said, and if that's what your guys' gut says, I feel like there's a
Yeah,
there's
let's
a
go with
there's a
our
certain
collective gut here.
but there's nothing again in the spirit of playing the game. Even though I don't think it's the right year, 85 might be better if it lands in 84 in terms of the score, because either way, if we only get 1 point off, we still win, right? So it's one of those things. Like if we're confident that it's in the late pre-coma era, 85 is a safe bet just in terms of a point.
I think that's smart. I think that's smart.
Giving us some room for error, right?
I feel like I'm back in that situation where I should say the answer that makes the most sense for the game, even if I'm not sure it's really the correct answer.
Yeah,
I think we should.
exactly.
I think we should go 85. It sounds like both of you guys think we should go 85.
I feel like it would be a safe
It's
bet.
safe. All agreed.
Okay. It was around and round at Nassau on April 11th, 1982.
Oh my God!
Oh no!
Wow.
Wow.
So, yeah. So then it's 3. So final score 6-5. A fucking nail biter.
82.
Yeah, that's crazy. Early 82 too.
Yeah.
April 11th.
I mean, so Brent's got the organ going, but he's also got some keys. Jonathan, you said you heard like some keys as well as organ.
Yeah. I kind of split them in half there. One thing I noticed, like for a split second, is like, oh, this is early '80s. Just when I heard Bob, like I don't know, something about that recording, like it actually reminded me of a Go to Nassau from like 80 or 81, the official live release.
The other team guessed 81 there.
Wow.
Nice.
1 point off the pace there, guys, on a very hard 5 songs, very sparse, especially that Promised Land Around and Around finish to it. Just not a lot of sound there.
Yeah. Well, good for them. Good for them. That's cool.
Seriously.
That's cool. I love it.
Yeah, it was fascinating listening to all you guys. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks
Thank you
for
for having us. This is great.
Yeah. Great to do it again. Great to do it with and chat it up with people in real time. Just great.
My sentiments exactly. I mean, it's so nice being able to like trying to decipher everything and just distill it down into 1 year. I mean, because I can just go with any thought, but being able to talk with you guys, I mean, it's a real treat.
Absolutely.
Well, it was a pleasure to listen to all of you. So fun. Thank you all for doing it. All right, subscribe to Guest of the Year on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for all the show links, including our YouTube channel and TikTok and loads of other stuff. Go to guestoftheyear.net. And if you want to be a contestant on the show, sponsor the show, or make comments and ask questions, email us at info@guestoftheyear.net. Thanks so much to Dylan for drawing the posters. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned. We're going to have more stuff in the future. There might be a brief break, but we'll be back, I promise, with something different. But, not that different. So thanks to the amazing tapers whose recordings made the show possible. Thank you to all of our contestants. And remember, it's all one song anyway.
And I bid you good night. Good night. Good night. And I bid you good night. Good night. Good night.